May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be ever mindful of thee, O Lord, my strength and my salvation. Amen. Please be seated. I see Anya in our congregation this morning. She was hiding from Henry and then Ed, and all the way back here in this little place, we have a visitor, Anya, down from Riverview. Welcome, Anya. Thank you for joining us. You were baptized here, I remember. Welcome back. Yes, and welcome to you, Matthew. We're going to have a great time this morning. We're going to talk about the power of Jesus Christ in your life. We're going to talk about trusting in God and only in God. Our sermon this morning is going to be taken from our gospel reading. It's fairly straightforward. It's a parable, but can be read on many different levels. And one of the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." But he said to him, "Man, who made me a judge or an arbitrator over you?" Then it goes on with the parable of the rich fool. The ground of a certain rich man yielded plentifully, and he thought within himself, saying, "What shall I do, since I have no room to store my crops?" So he said, "I will do this. I'll pull down my barns and build greater, and there I will store all my crops and all my goods, and I will say to my soul, 'Soul, you have many goods laid up for many years. Take your ease, eat, drink, and be merry.' But God said to him, 'Fool, this night your soul will be required of you. Then whose will these things be which you have provided? So is he who lays up treasure for himself and is not rich towards God.'" Well, the context of this sermon, I got to work in some stuff to prove to you why I had to go to college all those years. The context of the sermon is Jesus has been talking to the Pharisees. The Pharisees are the lawgivers. They're the ones you would go if you had a probate problem, if you had an inheritance issue, if you had a family court issue. You didn't go to the government, you went to the rabbis, the teachers, the interpreters of the law. And Jesus has been saying, these Pharisees are whited sepulchres. All they care about are rules and regulations. The Spirit is absent. And so somebody from the crowd, after Jesus has been hacking little knees off of the Pharisees, asked him a question that you would ask a Pharisee. "Teacher, help me and my brother settle an inheritance dispute." And Jesus responds, "Who made me a judge or an arbitrator over you?" Now, Jesus is not saying, "I can't do this." He's saying, "I am not another Pharisee. I am here not to get involved in this stuff. I'm here to talk about real issues of eternal meaning, which is covetousness, which is greed." And then he tells a parable to illustrate his point. There was a wealthy man, a successful man, and it tells us that this was a good man. This is a pillar of the community, president of the Chamber of Commerce, president of the Rotary Club. He made his money legally, lawfully. He didn't have a girlfriend on the side. He wasn't a crooked politician. This was an honest and decent man who had been successful in life. And he said to him, "I've got a pile, and I'm moving to Florida, and all these houses are too small for all my stuff. So what am I going to do? I'm going to pull down my house, and I'm going to build an even bigger house. Extra garage, because in Florida we only have 1.5 two-car garages. If you're lucky, you can fit in a golf cart. But I got 6 cars, and I've got all these things. I need space. So I'm going to pull down my house. I'm going to build an even bigger one, and then I can spend the rest of my days by the pool, having a grand old time." And Jesus says, "You fool, you're going to die tonight. Your soul is required of you. Now, whose will all these things be? Put your trust not in your money, not in today, but put your trust in Jesus Christ. Make him the focus of your life, not your things." We've got levels here. We have levels of Jesus saying, why should he domestic disputes. Not that it's not important, but his message is eternal. It's not a message of the moment. Jesus is saying you need to put your trust not in the money, not in your abilities, but put your trust and faith in God and God alone. And in our gospel reading, this point is also made. Henry read to us from Colossians chapter 3. Set your sight on the things above, not on the world in front of you. Make Jesus the center of your life. We get lots of visitors here. I scare away most of them, but some of you will see. And we had this man, and I'd seen him before. It was about 3 years ago, and I have a really good memory for faces. And I try to keep the names attached to them, but sometimes I lose names. And he'd been here once, I knew that. And so I went up to him and said, "Welcome back, how are you?" "I haven't seen you for a while." He said, "Yes, I came here about 3 years ago, and I got so mad I didn't come back." And I said, that's not an uncommon response. "Well, when you had the prayers of the people, you prayed for Barack Obama, and I can't stand Barack Obama. And I didn't come back." And I said, "Oh, that's too bad. And I noticed today that you didn't pray by name for President Trump. I love President Trump. Why did you omit his name in the prayers of the people? Are you people communists or something?" And I said, "No, we just go through write one, write prayers of the people, form 1, 2, 3, 4. Some forms, some years, we list everybody by name, starting with President, all the way down to the dog catcher. Everybody's got a name. Other years, we just say we pray for all those in authority. We don't pray for a president because we support him. We don't pray, omit his name because we do not support him. We don't do that." Well, this wasn't good enough for him. So he hasn't been back. I'll see him in 3 or 4 more years if we have a new president. And he'll try us out one more time. But people do ask this question. Why do I not do politics from the pulpit? Why don't I talk about the issues of the day? Why do I not take the New York Times editorial page or the Washington Post and press home the things that are so vital to people? And it's the same reason, for my thinking, that Jesus did not decide the inheritance issue. My job as a minister of the gospel is not to fight the fights of the moment, but to preach the truths eternal, so that you can go fight the fights of the moment, so that you can go in the inheritance dispute and ask myself, am I being motivated by greed? Do I just want to get in with my brother? Or am I doing the right thing? If you put money or people or anything in the place of Jesus Christ in the middle of your heart, you're engaged in idolatry. And friends, I have to confess to you, I'm an idolater. I'm an idolater. That's been the big fight of my life. Susan and I were married, how old were we? 22. We got married when we were 22. And we did not have children about 10, 12 years. And I have to tell you, I longed for children. We longed for children. This was that missing void in our heart. And when Susan became pregnant, not only was she having a child, but we were having children. Twins. This was the most wonderful thing. My life was wonderful with Susan, but now that the children who I had focused my hopes and desires, my whole future, is in these children who are yet to be, who I so desperately desire, they're now here. And I have to tell you, when they were born, they were exactly as I thought they would be. Wonderful, angelic creatures. And then they grew up. Now, whereas normal people who may have had several children and who didn't, if you will, have their whole being for a third of their life at that point fixed on their coming, may have taken things in stride, I didn't. So when my children grew up and became little individuals, and then they entered their teens, and Rick, you've got some grief ahead of you, fella, I'm telling you, with Bella. And when they became teenagers, anytime they look at me cross-eyed, it would kill me. Why would it kill me?
because they were the center of my universe. And as they became adults and people, and they let me down, their letting me down was far greater consequence, because in essence they were the center of my being. People do this to their wife or their husband. And when they are betrayed, when they are let down by their spouse, it is so destructive, because their whole world collapses around them, because they had put their whole trust in this man to do the right thing. And he should know better. Yet he did it. And it kills me. And it kills my soul. Some people do it with their parents, and they never get over being let down by their father, that perfect man, or their mother, that perfect woman. And they live in a brokenness because the idol they had made, that was the center of everything, had feet of clay. I like being in Shepherd of the Hills. It's a really great church. In fact, if I drop dead suddenly, look at my competitors, because they probably want this job. It's a wonderful place to be a priest. It's a place filled with love and kindness. And people, I sound like Sally Fields, but they like me! And it is not, but we have some people who will come to me with eyes bowed and low and say, Father, Pontiac or Oldsmobile, that Father knows best in all things. And I'll say, dear, Pontiac and Oldsmobile are all out of business. You mean Honda and Nissan, don't you? But I'm going to let them down one day. They look at me as an idol. Oh, you've done so much for my faith, for my feelings of who I am as a person. I've become their idol. Or the church becomes their idol. They're politicians that become idols of people. And when they let them down, which they will, we become devastated and destroyed. Why don't I do politics? Why am I not like the Bishop of Washington and the Dean of the National Cathedral? They were in the news this past week. They issued a pastoral letter denouncing President Trump in very strong terms. I was asked about this by people who wanted me either to say how wonderful or how terrible. But the words that they said, and my response was really irritating. I usually am irritating, but this was particularly irritating. I said, it's their right to say whatever they want. But these are 3 Episcopalians in the greater D.C. area. I don't really care what they have to say. I can find 3 Episcopalians who disagree with them. It's their right to say what they do. Where I have a problem is where they say it when they're dressed like this, implying that if you don't listen to what they say, somehow you're not a good Christian. That, I think, is a step way too far. I don't do politics. I don't do the issues of the age. I will never tell you how to vote, or what proposition to support, or what the moral choice on this political issue is, because I'm going to be preaching Christ crucified and Him only. And that's the job of a minister, to share the truth. And because we, as Episcopalians, expect you to think for yourself, to take these truths from the Bible, to apply reason, to apply our traditions, and come to a solution that is good and right for you. It's so much easier to say, buy a Pontiac, and you buy a Pontiac, because Father knows best. I can't do that with my children. They don't listen. You think I can do it to a member of a congregation? I can't. I won't. I never will. See, if you don't have Christ at the center of your heart, you're going to be let down. Years ago, when I was studying to be a priest, we had the last decent presiding bishop. There, I'm getting political now. The last decent presiding bishop, John Allen of Mississippi. This man, MGM, if they were going to film a movie about bishops, would have hired John Allen to play Senator Foghorn Leghorn. He had one of those voices from Mississippi
that started down here and went through a gravel pit before it came. He was in his early 70s at that point, and he came to talk to us young men and women in our late 20s, early 30s. And somebody asked him the question, if you would do things over again, if you would change your ministry, what would you change? What would you do differently? And he thought about it. He said, the great failing of my ministry is that I have worshipped the church and not Jesus Christ. I have put the church at the center of my being. Not he, not God, not Jesus. I do that. I worship the institution. I worship my children. I worship my wife. When I married Susan, I think we were still using the old prayer book. And what I said to her at what point, with this ring I thee wed, with this body I thee worship. I said that, it's on the record. She'll raise it every so often. But if I don't put Christ in the center, I'm worshiping an idol that will fall. I am still working on being a good priest. I'm still working on being a good husband, a good father, a good citizen, a good neighbor. I'm not there. I probably never will be. And I will let you down, not deliberately. I won't choose to do that, but I will make mistakes. I'll say the wrong thing. I'll make an ass out of myself from time to time. Not because I want to, but because I'm a human being. Don't make the church, don't make the priest, don't make something God. What did Paul tell us? Put your sights on higher things. Jesus Christ. Jesus will never let you down. You know, when I work on putting Christ at the center of my life, guess what's happened to my relationship with my wife? It gets better. When I have Christ at the center of my life, what happens to my relationship with my children? It gets better. Because I see them and appreciate them as fellow travelers on a path towards salvation in Jesus. And I love them as He loves them. But if I love them as the center of things, and then where should I begin? Oh, they got another traffic ticket. Oh, they dropped their iPhone and they're on a flight to Calcutta next week, tomorrow, and they need a new iPhone. Can I send them $800? Oh, you go on. If I put that at the center, I'm going to be like that. Put Christ in the center of everything. And then when people will let you down, and they will, it won't destroy you. I've shared the work I've been doing with some men my age who were molested by clergy. They are priests too. They have, after 30 years, they finally come out. After lives, careers are destroyed, marriages are wrecked, suicide attempts, they finally can speak up to say, this happened to me. And what I hear, I don't tell them this directly, but I hear they so idolized this man who was abusing them that he had become Christ to them. And so when he did these terrible things, they almost deserved it because God was doing it. But if you put God in that center and allow God to be there, you can see the abuse for what it is, an act of the enemy, of Satan working through a broken, fallen creature, and not an act by God. Friends, make Jesus the key to everything. He's the key to every relationship. He's the key to living life, living it fully and abundantly and joyfully. If you put your wife, your child, your job, anything else, the president, this one or the last, at the center of your being, you're never going to get there.